Whoa, a couple minutes late. Don't at me. It's been another day. It's been another day. Happy equinox, everybody. For those in the northern hemisphere, it is now spring. If you are in the southern hemisphere, it's now fall. I'm not going to talk much about that because I don't know shit about it, alright? I was just thinking about the one time I've been in the southern hemisphere, and it was during spring for me. But when you're in those transitional seasons, it's a little less noticeable. It was really cold when I was in New Zealand, Australia. Anyways, hello, happy equinox, happy new year. If you are new to astrology, welcome. Welcome. It is the first day of Aries season, and we're gonna celebrate a little bit. Just getting sorted here because I just finished other work, so you know the drill, you know the vibes. How's everybody doing? How was everybody's end of their Pisces season, beginning of Aries season so far? We've had like a little less than 12 hours, so getting a taste, getting a little sampler. I was live last night for the show, and it was a little more serious of a topic, as is bound to happen these days. Yeah, excited for the shift in the energy for sure. For sure, it has been there's still a lot of Pisces going on, but it has been just a lot of it. I'm gonna let people know we're in here. We'll get started. Everything needs to be updated as soon as I do anything. It's like, actually, you need to update 4 things that you haven't thought of in a really long time. But yeah, shifting the energy, really nice. I think so. One of the other exciting things, I'm sure, for all you Mercury retrograde haters out there, is that Mercury also stationed direct today. So just kind of a lot going on. I noticed that like it's really important to know that when we have these changes, like when Mercury stations, it's not like all the Mercury retrograde stuff just stops. It just kind of slows. Um, so I had a kind of a Mercury retrograde sort of day. I saw like multiple people almost get into accidents. Uh, so that was great, but nobody actually got into an accident because I'm good. I'm a good defensive driver, as somebody who lives in Los Angeles. Thank God. Um, okay, let's see. All right. I'm letting them know. Here they come. All right, one more, and then we get to start. And then the other thing I'm going to be doing today is, if you would like, I'm going to do one card tarot readings, and you have to be in my community to do it. So I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do it. If you want to get on the list, get on the list. We'll look at the equinox chart before I get into that, so you got time. There's no rush. Yeah, just get a little theme for you. All right, here we go. Okay, so the way that you'll jump on the list is in Patreon, in the community chat. Here's what we'll do. Equinox. People are pretty shy about using the community chats in Hello Shelby, Happy Equinox, Happy New Year. People are shy about using the community chat on Patreon, so I'm incentivizing. I need people to start getting in the mix a little bit. I'm usually, it's me and Beth in there holding it down. Okay, me and Beth, we want you guys to come play with us. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. You don't have to be in there all the time. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just come play. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm making a list here, popping it in. So you guys can hop on that list. Understand, I'm going to talk a little bit before we start doing the readings. All right. And I don't have the air conditioning on, so we're on a time crunch here. We're on a time crunch here because it is over 90 degrees in Los Angeles, which, believe it or not, relevant to the equinox topic. Unfortunately. Okay. Yeah. I can tell it's Aries season because it's a little bit. It's very easy to become irritated. I'll tell you that. Okay, I'm going to show you. So here we are. We're in the Patreon. It's free. Patreon.com/my name, which is right here below, right here, right on the screen. So if you want a mini reading, just put your name on this, and that's that. There we go. See, Mimi's following directions. Mimi gets a heart. So this is where you go. This is where you go. Okay? Leave that up there. All right. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to look at that equinox chart. I looked at it the other day on another live stream. But, 2026 I've talked about quite a bit at this point. And it's quite the year. It is quite the year. It's, best way I can say it. Here we go. Okay. Oh, matinee days. I'm so glad you're here too. It is really nice to have people come through. I don't normally stream on Fridays historically, so maybe every once in a while. So it's like a, nice end of the week. Nice. It feels very like holiday-ish in that way. Like we get a long weekend, except for we don't because our culture is so out of sync with seasons and humanity. Isn't it so fun? Okay. So this is the ingress chart for the equinox. So the equinox happened 7:45 this morning, Pacific time. It's important to remember that time zones are a thing. And of course, we still have the moon in Aries as well. So it's like we got a lot of Aries going on. And Mercury is now direct. It wasn't when the equinox happened, but it certainly is now. And then we still have Mars in Pisces as well. So there's still like that Pisces flavor is still hanging around, which is part of the reason why I was like, it's not gonna feel, we're gonna feel change, but it might not be like, the level of change that people are looking for, because I know that people are generally there's a lot of resistance to Pisces energy, I think, from what I've observed. So I hope you enjoyed the last of your Pisces sun evening. I tried to do that, tried to relax. I meditated a little bit, listen to music. Music just sounds best in Pisces season, in my experience. It just hits really good. But yeah, look, I think that this is going to be, the next astrological year that we're looking at here. So in astrology, again, spring equinox for us in the northern hemisphere, when the sun moves into Aries. That's the beginning of the solar cycle. So it is the sun moving into the first sign of the zodiac. That is why. So it's like very, very new beginnings. Very spring has sprung. It's the season where new life is starting to form. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, the end of winter. There's more sunlight, literally more sunlight. So it's the start. It's the start. It's a cardinal sign. That's important to know. The cardinal signs are the season starters. So of course, Aries it hits the ground running. It hits the ground running. It's in motion. And this is a year of a lot of. It's just a very active year. I think it's going to be. I wish I could tell you like things are going to slow down, and the news is going to chill out a bit. We have so much. If you can't tell just by like watching the news, we have so much going on that that it's just this stuff. Even if like let's say they pulled out of Iran tomorrow, like it, it's not going to be done that quickly. Uh, a lot of things that have been um, ongoing are going to like continue. What I can see in this chart is we're going to continue the economic stuff that we are starting to really really get into here. The economy hasn't been good. Like the global economy has been really disrupted by Donald Trump and his regime and what they've done. So already not in a great place. And then now this other thing is happening. Directly, it's impacting. There's just a lot. So what I see here is that there's this ongoing. You feel like I'm on fire. I know. I hear you. Also nice to see you in the chat. It does feel like that. It does feel like that meme. This is kind of the energy a little bit of this chart, right? And I really want to stop you because I can like hear people listening to this and being like, oh, the hard thing about doing work like this and being an astrologer is that you just describing what's going on in the world, people are like, wow, you're so depressing. Um, the messes that have been made over the last several hundred years, you can't just like put that all back in a box and say it's all good. If a lot of people that are listening to me are people that understand that we need systemic change. That we look at the world and we like this ain't right. So my question to you is like if all of this activity and all of this messiness is that upsetting to you, like I'm not sure how you expect us to get past it. And so what my advice is in this situation is understand that this situation, as messy as it is not, it's not forever, but we are in the beginnings of very big social changes, very big system changes. And that is like the messiest point, right? Not that there won't be other things and other struggles, but it's the most uncertain. It is the most like, how's this going to turn out? Which means that our perspective right now is necessarily limited. We're in the middle of things. Um, so I think it is really important for the next astrological year to understand that things that are happening, things that we're witnessing, as horrible as they are, first of all, they're not all going to be horrible. First of all, very important to remember. Second of all, they are temporary. They are temporary. The conditions that we're under right now, like the things that are happening, this war with Iran, I'm not saying that it's going to go on too long, and I think people think it's going to, he keeps saying we're almost done, we've won, we've destroyed them, like there's not much else to do, they're trying to downplay it. I don't think it's going to be like that, but just understand that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is temporary, which means that forming a judgment around it, like, oh, this, horrible things that we're witnessing are forever, I think is not the best move. I think it's limiting, and I think it's probably going to make you unnecessarily like, negative about the situation. That's not to say that you can't be like totally honest about the things that are horrible. I don't think that I think you can do both. But what I mean is just don't like look at it like the world is over and it's not worth trying. That is the worst thing that you could do. That is hands down the worst thing you could do, is to look at the situation right now and be like, world is fucked. I'm gonna head out. Like I'm just gonna, focus on myself, ride it out, enjoy it while it's here, kind of a thing. You could do that. I can't stop you. I wouldn't encourage it, but it's not the move. Um, what you do need to do is be very, very clear and very active about what it is that your role in all of this is. And I've said before, when, the Pluto in Aquarius era that we are in, from now to, the next like 18 plus years. It's a long period of time, right? But what I've said is that we're not looking for saviors in this situation. This is a us problem. This is a we problem. And so it's not about me, it's about we. And if you don't have that in mind as you're moving forward, you're going to limit yourself. You're going to not be able to build the community resources, which community is a thing, like food and water and shelter that we need as human beings. It's not optional the way that some people try to make it. Um, if you disagree, you can, argue with your screen. I don't know, but that's just part of being human. You need other people, right? So it's not that we need to ignore the we of it all, but at all. But we can't control what other people do. What we can control is our own contributions to the moment that we're in and the movement that we're a part of, whether we fucking signed up for it or not. We're here. The situation is what it is, regardless of your beliefs around it. It is what it is, right? That's very, very Aries. It is what it is. It is what it is. You need to be a little bit flexible. You need to be a little bit brave. And you need to stay in motion. Not all the time. I'm not saying don't rest, but I'm saying that you should be actively engaged with the world and the world around you. That is what this energy is calling for. And you don't need to model what you're doing after someone else just because you think it's the right thing to do. You really need to tune in to yourself. And one of the gifts of this wild energy that we're in is that it reveals who we are at our core, right? When shit hits the fan, you learn a lot about who you are at your core and what is actually important to you. There's a lot of that in here. There's a lot of that in here. And that's about authenticity, right? Not showing up to this movement, to the resistance to fascism as anything other than what you are. Um, you don't have to be somebody else, but you do need to be you, and you need to actually show up and do the thing, whatever that is for you. I do think that there is going to continue to be a lot of violence in the world. This is a very, very active year. The Trump regime is incredibly violent. I think that because of the situation, the United States has dominated the globe pretty much since its existence. I've talked a lot about this, so as we talked about the United States. Uh, we're in the process of looking at a world where the United States cannot just run over every other country anymore. We're seeing the byproduct of that. We're seeing everything that's happening in West Asia right now with Iran. Uh, the United States has all these military bases there. A lot of the world has been colonized in some way, shape, or form by the United States. We have our tentacles everywhere, and so what we're partly watching is that some of those tentacles are are being struck at. So because this is a matter of survival for other countries like Iran, like Venezuela, like Cuba, like there are all, and there's a lot more than just those ones, but those are the ones I think that are kind of they're top of the list right now. The other side of that, as I talked about yesterday, is the imperial boomerang. It's coming back home. It's always been here, to be honest with you, but it's just more overt and affecting more people now. People that felt that they were not so marginalized, not so endangered, now have to reckon with, actually, I'm not safe. Maybe I never was safe, and it was my privilege that made me feel like I was, right? There's a lot of that in here. So it's going to be a messy year. I've talked in the past a lot about, even before this year started, I had already talked about we're going to see a lot more assassinations in the next couple of years. Charlie Kirk, we've seen, and the kidnapping of a president, we've seen the assassination of the supreme leader. There will be more. There will be more. That's just the energy that we're dealing with. There's a lot of diplomatic issues right now. A lot of allies, for example, the UK is now going to be letting the United States use their bases to do operations related to the war on Iran. Um, this is going to cause a lot of renegotiation, a lot of problems. I don't think that all of the alliances as they have stood are going to be tenable. So I think that over the course of this next year, there's going to be a lot of countries trying to figure out. This has been in process, but it's relevant to this year. A lot of countries figuring out that it's dangerous to be allied with the United States, and it's also dangerous to be an enemy of the United States. So that means that these countries have to figure out ways to disempower the United States without bringing more harm on themselves. So I think that we're going to see a lot of like diplomatic renegotiation and just essentially trying to diminish the United States. We have the rest of the world by its throat, so it's not sustainable. The other thing that is a little bit harder to talk about than even that. So I'm in Los Angeles right now. It's in the mid 90s, 95 degrees. California, we broke a bunch of temperature records for the month of March with this current heat wave that we're in. Historically, never been seen before. I hate talking about this because I fear people misinterpreting what I'm saying as check out and that it's doomed and it's over. But we are in really dangerous territory climate wise. Anybody that knows anything about climate crisis should be able to look around and tell you that. Um, I did organizing around environmentalism. What temperature is it normally here in March? It's usually like in the 70s. Maybe it'll get into the 80s now and again, but yeah. It's been for multiple days. It's been mid 90s here. Um, so what this is going to look like is more extreme weather. More we've never seen this before. We've never seen, hurricanes with this type of destruction. We've never seen fires that get this big. Um, it's bad. It's fucking bad. And I want to remind us that we have the solutions to climate crisis. We have them. But the oil companies and the very wealthy people that own these companies or are invested in these companies have no fucking interest in stopping that profit stream. And as we can see with what's happening with Iran, this is a major aspect of the global economy. There are too many people that are invested in the very things that are destroying our planet. Point blank period. We could make transit free, right? We can make it fast, free, reliable. That's something that Zoran Mamdani, we don't agree on everything. That's one thing that he really has right, is that needs to be the standard, especially in cities. We need free, reliable, clean public transit. We got to get away from oil for sure. And the thing about it is that it's the 1%, is the Epstein class. The wealthiest people on the planet are the ones that cause an enormous amount of all the shit in our atmosphere that is destroying the climate. It's not. There's no debate about this. It's just they don't want to say that because it implicates, like everything else. We can't destroy the Epstein class or their ability to make money, right? If the world and the United States worship anything, it's at the altar of capital. It's at the altar of making money. That's it. That's what it's all about. And so what we're watching is the natural result of letting that continue. These are people that have private jets that fly everywhere all the time. That are, the United States military is the number one polluter on the planet. If we want to continue existing on this planet with any sense of ease, because even if you don't care about how hot it is, I'm sure you're going to care if we can't grow the food that you eat on this planet anymore. Like, there's no opting out of this. Okay? And that's one of the elements of Pluto and Aquarius. We're all on this fucking planet together, regardless of what we think about each other or how we feel about that. We are here together. And we're coming to a critical point where you know, the genocide of Palestine, the bombing that has been going on for years in Gaza has absolutely destroyed the environment there. You know, Israel blowing up that oil facility, that was a chemical attack. All that shit went into the air, into the atmosphere. Not only in Iran is that going to have an impact. The planet's the planet. That shit, you know, moves around the planet in our atmosphere. We're doing things like that all over the place. So my point with bringing this up is that the war and the genocide that we're seeing now is all contributing to the acceleration of climate crisis. If we want to continue living on this planet, we cannot have the world's largest military continue to be the world's largest polluter. Yeah, I think Mimi, I think that being concerned about the tree in your parents' yard because of hurricanes is as right on. And you know, if you're listening to this and you haven't given this stuff much thought, I would think about what types of climate related stuff might be impacting you. For me in Los Angeles, it's extreme heat and it is fires. Those are the things that are kind of coming down here. For my friends on the East Coast, hurricanes in the Caribbean. That's you know, hurricanes are going to continue to, I think, get more extreme. I'm not a meteorologist by any means, so I would continue to listen to the experts on those things. But as a general trend, um, it's more of like historic record breaking in terms of cost, in terms of damage. And you can look at some recent climate, like you know, what happened in Asheville. You know, even like there's so many different climate events in the past few years that I think uh, are important to remember, and that remember that the repercussions of those things are still happening here in Los Angeles. Like you know, all these people lost their homes. These things can be very devastating. So. And the other thing about it is the United States, we are disproportionately as a country, we contribute more as a country than the rest of the planet to emissions. So the United States bears a lot of responsibility in this. Not all responsibility, but a lot. The Western world, the so-called first world, is responsible for this by and large, because the rest of the world is like drops in the bucket compared to what we are. So that's another thing that is definitely in play for the next year. Um, so I just would be prepared to the best of your ability. Be prepared for emergencies. Be prepared for, you know, I'm not saying every single person is going to have to deal with this, but this is a planetary problem, and we are going to see some more extreme weather events um, over this next year. Um, what else do we want to talk about here? I think I think another thing is that a lot of people are really a big theme of this next year is a lot of people are really like rethinking their relationship to other people, whether it's you know they experience a hurricane that devastates the area that they live in, and then maybe they're like, oh, actually, you know, it is important to have a community, know my neighbors, be there for people, and not be there for people only when there's like a profit incentive, right? No, just like to be human beings, to understand that we are interconnected and interrelated. I think people are going to be kind of questioning a lot of the old ways of doing things, and this is part of this longer process of ongoing awakenings, essentially, that we're having, because a lot of people, especially Americans, are in their own bubble, you know what I mean? Like not thinking about this stuff. They're as long as they can get their little treats, as long as something doesn't affect them directly, they are tuned the fuck out. And and so I think part of the awakening process is that people are going to realize that essentially in many cases that these people that are in that bubble, probably by things not going the way that they want them to go, are they going to have some rude awakenings. Um, so I think that that is going to have I think that's going to have a pretty significant effect on how the year plays out, because I do think that this is a year that there's a build up to, I think, more resistance. I think like right now we're seeing, I just keep using Iran because it's obviously very, very timely and very relevant. But right now we're seeing, for example, like the MAGA people that were, America first, and Donald Trump doesn't like war and he doesn't want to start any wars, and that's why we voted for him. Bullshit. Because now that he's starting yet another conflict, going, another war, another attack on a sovereign nation, there's a bunch of MAGA people, almost all of them are like, yeah, this is actually good. Even though he lied to us and said he was going to do this, actually, we think it's good. I think that is going to be a position that's even harder and harder to sustain. We've already seen some people like dropping off, especially because of gas prices. That's the very American response to these things, unfortunately, is like, how does it affect me and my bottom line, right? So I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening as well. Um, I think we're going to see a lot of I think with the election this year in the United States, the midterm elections, I think that there's going to be a lot of like weaponization of I think they're gonna continue to really harp on that this false narrative that we are under some sort of an invasion from immigrants. That's a thing that we need to be scared of and concerned about, because I think it's one of the ways that they're justifying all the things that they're doing, and the um, excessive use of force by ICE and other law enforcement. I think that is going to be something that this regime leans on really hard as they try to hold on to as much power as they have, and then try to secure power through the upcoming election. So I think it's kind of just kind of a dialing up of what we've seen. However, on a personal level, um, I think it is a really important year to like, you should know what's going on and be aware and be, participating in resistance if you care about liberation at all. Uh, because this is kind of all hands on deck, is what this energy is. All hands on deck. Nobody should be sitting on the sidelines. And I mean, I'm talking about people should be doing according to their ability what they're able to do, right? Um, so if you are somebody, for example, who is disabled, I'm not asking you to take to the streets if that is not something that is within your ability to do. I'm asking you to do what is within your ability to do. And everybody has something to contribute. So this is about really owning your piece of the pie, owning what it is. And you don't have to do it alone. You can own who you are and still act with your community, act with people around you who are going in the same direction relatively to you. In fact, that's kind of essential part of this. So, yeah, I do think that we're going to see this continued squeezing of human rights just on the planet, because there's a global rise in fascism. So they're trying to make everybody kind of fit into a certain mold, go along with things. That's I think going to be. I think that's actually going to have an effect of making people want to be even more bold in being who they are. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. But it is an important year to listen to those kind of intuitive pulls towards what it is that you actually feel drawn to. Like, oh, that excites me. That makes me feel alive. That makes me feel more like myself when I do this, or when I engage in this, or when I do this mutual aid, or when pay attention to those cues that you're getting, because this is a year where really you need to listen to your body and to those cues, which is a good thing to do any year. But this is a year where you're being asked to be a little bit more self-directed, if that makes sense. Be a little bit more self-directed instead of going with the program. Okay, because there's no one person that's going to be like, and this is what we're going to do collectively, and then this is what you're going to do personally, and then this is how it's going to work out. That's not how it is. We are in the process of inventing and birthing the new world. Okay? So that demands creativity from us because that's not an easy or a neat process. You have to be bold. You have to take risks. It's not anybody that's listening to this who considers themselves a creative person knows that creativity, making things, can actually be an uncomfortable process. It's a risky process because not everything turns out the way you want it to right off the bat, or maybe ever. But you need to be on the road to discovery, and the only way that that happens is by being an active participant. If you sit on the sidelines, you are not going to. How are you creating a new world if you're sitting on the sidelines of the old one? You know? So give yourself permission to be inventive, to be creative. Again, the new world that we're all walking into is being birthed right now by what we're doing. So take ownership of that. Take your role in that. If you don't want to do that, just know that the people that are polluting the earth and starting wars and doing genocides are very happy for you to just, let them take it. Let them handle it. We can't afford that. I bet you whatever you got going on is a lot more interesting than what they have going on. So that's kind of my 2 cents about this year. I think, yeah, there's just a lot of awakening, I think, this year. A lot of movement. A lot of movement happening this year. And of course, a lot of that's going to depend on how things pan out. All right, let's see. All right, so as a reminder, if you weren't here when I gave the explanation before, if you are a member of my Patreon community, which is patreon.com/Casey Felton-Lui, you can see it right on the screen, just spelled just like that. If you're in that community, you can get, we're going to do some Equinox tarot readings. These are 1-card readings. They're going to be really short and sweet, very Aries of me to do this. But the only way you can get a reading, and it's free to join. It is free to join. So you need to add yourself to this list if you want. As you can see, there we go. So you just go, you hit the community chat right here, and there you go. That's it, all right? Okay. Do we have Mimi here? If I call somebody's name, they're not like hanging out here, I'll just move them to the end of the list. I see you, Mimi. But just for future, for other people. All right, let's see. What is Mimi's year? So Mimi, this makes sense, I think, just knowing what I know about what's going on for you. It's interesting too, because I just said all this shit about about how the world is, going wild. The card has been haunting you. I hate when that happens, and then you actually get a reading from somebody else instead of pulling your own cards, and then it's like, oh, you again. How dare you? So rude. It's so rude. And this one is one of those cards that when it haunts you, you're like, I'm so sick of this motherfucker. Look at him. His hat always reminds me of, maybe this might be relevant for you, Mimi. It reminds me of, like at medical facilities, those like not plastic, they're almost like a rubbery, like cap thing. I don't even know what they are. It's giving medical on the hat. Not that you're going to have medical issues, but I wonder if you're not. I don't know. I keep thinking blood draws, so I don't know if that's something that you've been doing. Finger condoms. Those also, yeah. I don't know what they are, but they like even are this color, like this orangey color I don't think it's the finger condoms. I think they're like something related to blood draws. I don't know why. Maybe I could be making this up. This is what is coming through. But you have a lot going on. You have more than one thing going on. So I think I'm really, this card is about finding a rhythm for that. Finding more of a rhythm for just the practical aspects of life. Okay, you guys know I haven't lost my mind. Only in the fun way of have I lost my mind. So I think it's about finding a place for all of the different things that you're doing, and finding a way where it's there's not such abrupt shifts between what you're doing. I keep thinking of music, like like if you are like a composer, or um I don't know why this is coming through, but like instead of when there's different parts of a song, for example, like this part is um this part is really chaotic, right? And then there's a lot going on, and there's like, I keep saying, like cymbals and drums and like just like a big thing going on. And then there's a part of the song that moves into a slower, a more, my words are not doing well today. I think it's Mercury is stationing. So we're still, I'm not my most articulate self. But I think it has something to do with making the transitions between things less abrupt, is the feeling that I'm getting about this. Does that make sense, Mimi? Like, does that feel like relevant to where you're at right now? It's about flow. Okay. Yeah. Making things just kind of flow more naturally into each other, and so that it's just like a different part of. I'm thinking of your life as a song, as for whatever reason the metaphor that keeps coming through. Thinking of your life as a song, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna go to this part of the song, which is, has a little bit more going on. It's a little bit more. There's a little more tension in this part of the music, and then over here it's a little lighter, da, da, da. But finding that way to join those two things in a way that's more of a flow. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And then in the meantime, it's like, please understand that the world, you look in the background, the world is doing its thing too. And the other thing about this is probably a good message for us collectively as well. Not forcing stuff, yeah. But also, like, look at how he's got his own stuff going on. And yes, the world is chaotic, but he's kind of like focused on what's in his hands, what's on his plate. I'm never an advocate, as you know, Mimi. I'm never an advocate for ignoring reality and just checking out and just focusing on yourself, like, to an extreme degree. However, we have the most agency when we focus on what's in our hands and what's right in front of us. So it seems also like you finding the balance with that as well, not being tuned in or tuned out, which is interesting because, like, he's not tuned out. He's just there's probably, I'm sure he knows that the waves behind him are, shit's going wild back there. Look at the ships, like, shit's going wild back there. He's kind of not taking it on though. He's not taking it on personally. He's not personalizing. Oh my god, the waves back there are going wild. Imagine he would drop everything in his hands and just stare at these waves in the background. That's not what he's doing. He's like, okay, waves in the background are going, and I'm doing my piece of the pie is what I'm going to focus on. So I think it's also finding the balance with that too, which makes a lot of sense. Which makes a lot of sense because the world is, it's very noisy. It's very noisy. Not forcing stuff. So that's what I'm getting for you for this year. And I know because you're an Aries rising, you especially have the sort of new year, new you kind of feeling. I think with my Aries risings, that the equinox is when you're kind of gearing up really to take off to a new phase for yourself too. So it's interesting because I think part of finding the balance for you has to do with and I know where you live, and it's maybe we don't, for you and I, we don't get as extreme of seasons, or we didn't used to get as extreme of seasons as some of our other friends here. But I think some of it has to do with getting more in tune with the natural cycles as well. Not that you aren't, I know, but refining, I think, is what I'm doing. All right. I hope that was helpful, Mimi. Thank you so much, and I'm excited to hear about how this year evolves for you. All right, who is next? Who is next? Okay, I'm just going to show real quick for people who are just joining. Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for being in my community. I love celebrating, like, our little, the equinox. I love coming together to celebrate. I really do. Okay, so if you are not already on this list here, it's free to join. This is the list. You hop in, you go to the community chat, You find this little thread right here, should be right there, right in front of you. Orange finger, everybody put your orange finger condoms on, join the Patreon, hop in here, get on the list, get you a mini reading here. Okay. One of the funny things, the software that I use to stream, also Shelby, you're next. I'm shuffling for you, Shelby. The software I use to stream, this shot that we're in right now is called Big Face. So I don't get confused when I'm, I don't know if you guys have never streamed yourself, when you've got like a wall of lights and you're like talking to people and it's like 95 degrees, it's very easy to lose track of like, what the hell is going on? What am I clicking on? So I just went with Big Face. Yeah, let's see. What do we need to know about Shelby's upcoming new year? I do feel like this feels more to me like a new year than actual New Year's. What do you guys feel? How do you feel about it comparatively? Is it the calendar New Year that feels more like the New Year to you? Is it Aries season? Because I feel like I've been loading since the year started. And now I feel like I'm starting to come back to life. Okay. What's going on with Shelby? All right. You've started celebrating this as the new year. Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, you guys know, I acknowledge both because they're both part of our reality. But in terms of like my own personal cycles, I really I've leaned a lot more into the seasonal cycles, and I've found that it, like physically, I find it a lot more helpful. All right. So Shelby, for your upcoming new year, we've got the King of Cups here. So I think that this for you, you've done a lot of like work on yourself, a lot of emotional maturing, and I mean, you had a very emotional year. Aries season for sure. The weather changes help it feel more like a new year. Yeah, I bet you, especially for like, I feel like for people that have harder winters, I would imagine that the beginning of spring is like even more, of like a it feels like a big shift versus December to January is not a big. It's not really a big shift. We say it is, but All right. So I'm really feeling like I'm just, because I know, a lot of emotional processing, because I know what your year has been like. I feel like this year is going to be like, it's not that it's not going to be emotional. I just feel like there's a lot of strength in the King of Cups. And I feel like, look, he's like got this little, it's such an interesting card because look, he's basically like almost looks like he's floating on this, it kind of looks like a cement throne here, but he's not drowning. Isn't that so interesting? To be in a cement throne and he's almost floating on the water. It kind of reminds me also of Mimi's reading in a way too. It's like that the tumultuousness, and you can even see there's like a ship in the background on the other side here. There's like a little ship, and then there's like a fish on this side, and so there's a lot of like action that's going on, but he's not disturbed by the action. In fact, he seems very in command, and like he doesn't have anything to worry about. I think this is really about like this emotional strength that you have built over the past year and year plus, because I know it takes a lifetime. It takes a lifetime for us to get the strength that we have. But I feel like this is where things are starting to click for you in a certain way, like in an emotional way. And it feels like a lot of the your entire dating life, it feels like it's starting to. It's almost, I don't know. Maybe it's because maybe I'm saying this because it resonates with me. But it kind of feels like I keep feeling like I'm gearing up for something, and it's starting to feel like all of the bullshit that I've been through in my life so far has now matured to the point where I'm a lot less bothered as a person. It's a lot harder to knock me, off my throne, right? And I think that's the point that I'm feeling for you, is that it's going to be a lot harder to knock you, I think, going forward. not that you won't have your moments, but it feels like there's a real strength that you're embracing through this new year. And so I think it's about leaning into that strength for you. Not that you can't feel your feelings or whatever, but not letting your emotions dictate things so much as being a keen observer of your emotions and addressing them accordingly, rather than being like rocked by them, if that makes sense. Um, and also, I feel like because of that, there's probably a lot of people maybe in your life or just around, maybe in community, maybe people that you're going to meet over the course of this year that benefit from that strength. Because as for those of us who pay attention to the world and are tuned in, we tend to be clued in on stuff before the people that are kind of just floating through the world and just waiting for shit to happen to them. You know what I mean? Like there's people that pay attention, and then there's the people that are like, wait, what is going on? We're at war with who? You know what I mean? Like there's people in the world like that. And I feel like you are going to be you're going to be the person that, like, I don't know Shelby, what's happening in the world? I feel like you're going to be that person for people that are in your life at some point during this year. Um, and I'm getting the feeling just kind of intuitively that um, that there's like rewards in that for you. Not that you should never do anything that you don't want to do, but that when you offer that support and that strength to other people, that I think you're going to see positive results in your corner of the world or even personally, that you're going to benefit from it. Does that make sense? Like, I would say was to be generous with your emotional wisdom is kind of the feeling that I'm getting about this, because you've earned it. You know, you've really, like, you've got to this point um, where you have something to share. Like, you know what I mean? You have a certain level of abundance in your emotional strength. So, like, there's no need to hang on to it or just, you know, keep it for yourself, because you've built, like, you've built something here. You've built something here. So I think it can extend beyond you as well. And I think that also, I just think there's rewards for those of us who can bring that. I think we need strong figures. I think that looking at that equinox chart too, not everybody's going to be as brave and as capable as others. However, I think when those of us who are brave and capable let other people see us being brave and capable, it's contagious, and I think we need that. So I think that's kind of the sense that I'm getting for it, is that your emotional maturity can help other people grow in their emotional maturity in some way, shape, or form, and to just lean into that. I hope that was helpful, Shelby. I'm wishing you a very happy new year, and I'm excited to see how it progresses. Okay, who do we have next? We've got here we've got Beth. Beth, are you here? Beth is joining us from YouTube, I believe. You're so welcome. Happy New Year. My dog tapping around. She doesn't like when I work. It's really funny. She thinks it's offensive. All right, Beth, let me know if you're here. If not, I can just Beth, let me know if you're not here. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you. Nice to see you, Beth. It's nice to, when I finally when I pair people's usernames on one place to another place, it's very nice. It's very nice. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. You're the same person. All right. Here's for Beth. What do we need to know about Beth's year ahead? Okay. All right. So this is interesting. So we've got the Nine of Swords here in reverse. So this is kind of giving me the sense that probably this last year was really a challenge for you in some sense. And I think you've been carrying a lot of probably negative thinking, just like really harsh thoughts is what I'm getting. And it also feels like maybe you've been sidelining yourself a little bit, or like taking yourself out of the running for some things, or maybe just like withdrawing for maybe emotional processing that's been happening, or maybe just like re-engaging, like reformatting your thinking. which I think is a really good thing to do. And honestly, like this is, with the equinox and with Aries season, this is a good energy to invest in just kind of a fresh approach, right? It's like, if when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is open my windows and let fresh air come in. So I really am getting the sense of like fresh air for this. Um, that you've been in a more stationary place, and this year is about letting go of that. So it may be that I'm kind of getting the sense that it may not be that, like, today's the equinox. I'm not going to be like, Beth, go out today, go do the thing. The last year's over. It feels almost like we're in the process of letting go of kind of an older way of being over the course of this year. So I'm feeling this sense of release. And with that, relieving yourself of burdens, and especially burdens that you're bringing on yourself. Like, I know that shit is really rough right now. This is partly why, like, we all need to be, practicing the skill of being conscious of what we're, like, allowing to roll around in our heads all day. And so I think this year is kind of about letting go of maybe some of that older stuff, and maybe even just the struggle of this past astrological year. And I've said before, and I will say it again, this last year was rough. This last year was rough for a lot of us in a lot of different ways, and collectively, right? We're in this big time of transition. So it feels to me like this year is, in a sense for you, a bit of a transition period from like the old way of doing things to this newer Beth, upgrade. And it's specifically related to your thinking. So I would say this is about if you find yourself being down on yourself or starting to tell yourself that, man, the world sucks and it's always going to suck and why do I even bother? You have to, instead of ignoring that you're having those thoughts, answer them with something that's a little bit more helpful line of thinking. You don't have to lie to yourself, but even just a little bit more helpful. Like, yeah, the world sucks right now. However, I just had a really amazing burrito last night. And I like that part of life. So even if it's just small, the world isn't so bad all the time if I have a really nice burrito now and again, right? Even if you just have to hold on to those little things. The other thing about this too is I think maybe we're letting go of some isolation. Does that sound right? I think we're kind of tiptoeing out of isolation, or like being more reserved with yourself. So don't be afraid to do that. And I think that actually might help with your mentality too. To not, again, opening the window, letting some fresh air in, getting out of the bed, right? This is a person that's like kind of in the process of like getting up. And I think if you start making moves in that direction, it won't feel so like I'm kind of getting the sense that if you don't do it yourself, that the universe is going to kind of force it on you. So I would just start gently moving in the direction you want to be. Just start gently moving in the direction you want to be. Just a little bit. The thing about Aries energy, which I really like, is that it tends to be very like mission oriented in a way, but it's not about completing things. It's about starting things. It's about getting a move on. And then, sometimes when you get a move on, things change when you're on the road. That's okay. It's okay for things to change. Aww. You've been in isolation for over a year, yeah. Went through a divorce last year, only recently have I moved out of my place of rest into action. Well, this is a sign, I think that is the case, as I think that you are coming out the other side is the energy that this is giving. And that you are in the process. I'm not saying that you need to like run out and like start dating again and like make new friends. It doesn't have to be that extreme. It feels a little bit more subtle in your case and like a little gentler in your case. It's okay to be gentle with yourself, but I think microdosing connection, microdosing action is okay, especially if you're coming out of such like an extreme change. Like a divorce is a very big deal, and it's a big change. I'm sure you know better than I do, that is a big shift, and it requires a change in your mentality. So I think it's just about giving yourself permission to be in a state of transition and like coming out of that state, like that you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is kind of the sense that I'm getting, and so moving towards that light. rush yourself to move towards the light, but it's there, keep moving towards it. All right. I hope that was helpful about this. I feel like you're moving towards the light, and that the isolation period is, I wouldn't rush it, but I think it's, it's on the downswing. You're not going to be like that forever. So microdosing action, microdosing connection, just keeping it moving. All right. Thank you. I hope you have a great year. I look forward to hearing more about it. I'll look forward to it. Okay. Who do we have next? Where is Pluto? Do we got Pluto in here? All right. Let's see. What does Pluto need to know about this new year? I like the emoji that you use. I don't even know what it is. It looks like a marshmallow with a face. It kind of reminds me of No Face from Spirited Away. I do have a Spirited Away tattoo, by the way. Not of that, but... Oh no. You tried to do a regular spider piece, it changed the item I said. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still learning like some of the nuances of whatever's going on Twitch. Come here. She has something stuck to her mouth and it's bothering me. Stop. Okay. So we've got the Six of Cups here in reverse. I'll show it the other direction. Aw, I'm glad it was reassuring, Beth. I think you're moving into brighter days. That's the point I really want you to hold on to. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm very happy to provide reassurance, a little comfort. It's gonna be we're moving to the light this year. It's the best we can ask for, right? It's interesting too because that's kind of the spirit of the equinox is moving towards the light. So I think it's very timely as well. Okay, so this is a card that is about the past in certain ways, like the old meets the new. And it's in reverse. So it's interesting because I feel like in some sense your this year for you, Pluto is moving moving out of I know you're an adult, but I feel like it's moving out of childhood in some sense. And I'm not trying to tell you to like act like a grown-up because I think that's kind of a faulty premise in the first place, but it feels like you're leaving behind this like younger version of yourself in some way. Hold on. Are you? No. You've already passed that point. Sorry, I was just like thinking about, for some reason I started thinking about nodes and like a nodal return or something like that. But it feels like you're moving away from that older version of yourself. And it also feels like letting go of maybe some childhood stuff, maybe some like emotional understandings, and we kind of get formatted when we're children. Those emotions and the experiences that we have when we're really young, they become sort of a foundation for even thinking of the concept of mothering yourself. That's so interesting. It almost feels like, I mean, I think that's a great, I'm pro mothering yourself, especially like I feel like those of us who have complicated, the people that were supposed to maybe do those things didn't maybe do them, or didn't do them in a way that was necessarily super constructive for us. So I think that like mothering yourself, like being your own parent, I think in a certain way can be really really healing. But I think this is also about like acknowledging that you are a grown-up in a certain way, and not that like I want to be careful with how I'm saying this because I want it to be very clear that I'm not telling you to like not enjoy the things that you enjoy or like grow up or whatever, but there is this element of like releasing some of that younger version of yourself in order to embrace a more um, it feels like a more a mature version of yourself. And so it's not that you have to like, forget all about your younger self and grow up or whatever, but it is kind of like a growing up um, thing. I'm loving the ways that my brain is making connections today. Um, it feels like it does really feel like a new chapter for you as well. Like you're closing a chapter. That's really what I'm saying. Is like you're closing a chapter on this younger version of you, and really leaning into the fact that you have more agency now. Like you don't have to be told what to do, or not that you should be cared for and tended to, like when in the say mothering yourself, as you were saying. Um, but it feels almost like you're moving beyond that that part of yourself, and expanding into something else. I don't know why this is coming up, but are you thinking about moving? Maybe it's okay if the answer is no. You want to, yes. Okay, maybe that might be part of it. Because when I'm looking at this card, I've normally don't pay very much attention to the background, but for whatever reason, I'm feeling really drawn to the home in the background here. So that's why I was like, "Are you moving?" I feel like part of that might be related to you still live with your dad. Okay, so that really tracks what I'm saying. Like you're not a child anymore; you have agency. I understand that it's very, especially in this fucking economy, it's really a hard thing to do. But I wonder if it's not like, you know, um, you don't have to live alone, right? You don't have to be by yourself to be in a situation that's maybe different than you're in right now. But it feels like you have options. Is kind of what I'm getting, and I'm kind of also getting like wish upon a star feeling for you for this as well. Another thing I don't normally like really look at in this card, I've never even thought about it before. There's all these little white flowers all over the place. I'm really, really, really like staring at the flower. That I don't know why. Um, the phrase "wish upon a star" is like rotating in my head like heavily. So I want you to not like limit yourself. But the other thing that really is a weird thing to say, you are the star that you're wishing upon. So when you're asking, when you're looking up at the sky, you're looking at, God, the universe, your higher self, whatever it is. Um, even if it's God, right? Let's say we'll use that as an example. It's you. You're talking to you. Um, I think it's about like still make your wishes, be really fanciful, but believe in yourself as the manifester. It's not somebody giving it to you. It's you giving it to you. And this feels like so powerful in the context of this year that like because I don't know if you were here for the part I was talking about the chart for the equinox. This is a year of like agency and of like what are you capable of? Like what can you do? And probably things that you haven't thought of doing before. So don't limit yourself. Just like I've never done that before. I could never do that, right? That should not be a consideration. Like wish upon a star. If you have the wish, take the wish seriously, and understand that you're handing that wish over to yourself, and that means that magical things are going to come from that act of wishing, because you're embracing your own sort of magic. I am also feeling um, like I was saying, releasing the past. You're not a kid anymore, but it's also about not focusing so much on what has happened and paying more attention to what could happen next. Not that you need to be preoccupied with the future, but just that you need to be looking forward. Does that make sense? And there's a lot of wishes. You don't get there's no limit to the amount of desire and movement that you can make in this next chapter for yourself. Um, but I think you're really like this is a year where you're I think kind of like Beth's reading is it's kind of a transition year in the sense of you're letting go of that older part of yourself and leaning into what this next chapter is, what this agency looks like, what those wishes are that you want to manifest, getting a little bit clearer about those and taking them more seriously. That will also help them come to fruition. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like as human beings, there's things that we secretly want and we don't really like do anything about it because we're like, oh, that's probably never going to happen, right? You know? I think this is about taking yourself a little bit more seriously, you know, in that sense. So it's magical thinking, but understanding that you're the magic. I think that's part of it. Like, you know, because I keep saying make wish, wish upon a star. Wish upon a star is like it's like a thing that you say to a child, right? Which isn't that's not a negative thing, but it is a thing that you say to a child, and it's almost like you're realizing like the magic was within you all along. As corny as that sounds, like the magic's all around you. It's not just a childhood thing. It's like, oh my god, it's so much bigger and more expansive. And I think things that seemed far away and impossible are going to start feeling a lot more possible for you this year, as you go through this kind of process of releasing, you know, the last chapter. All right, I hope that was helpful, Pluto. I hope you have a great year. I think that's it. I think that's it. Anybody else want a reading? Anybody else in the chat? I'll guide you right to it. You don't have to be in there already. You can join right now. It will take, you know, 2 minutes at the most. 2 minutes if you're slow. You're so welcome. Otherwise, we'll do something else. Oh my god, we've already been live for like an hour. Okay, well, maybe we won't do something else. Time has been super, super wild. I'm gonna stick around for a few minutes just to make sure if anybody else is looking for a reading. I know it's Friday night. I didn't put the equinox on a Friday, okay? Alright? I didn't do it. That's God. What is this? Oh. I was looking for something to spit out my gum on, and I need those notes, so I can't spit my gum out on them. Okay. Should I do one for myself? Is that corny? Since nobody else is here. Since nobody else is here. It's kind of a quieter day. I mean, oh, I don't know if I like what I just drank. I think I've had this before too. I'm like, what happened? All right, we'll do one for me. I haven't done this yet. If I had thought about it, I might have made an Equinox tarot spread. Maybe I will still. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I've been really, I don't know about you. One of the big things around this time of year, and it was already happening, I think because of the Pisces new moon that we just had. I've been like really like jonesing to clean the whole apartment for whatever reason, and like I'm like thinking like I'm excited to go and like repot a bunch of stuff on my porch, and like I don't know, I've been really into like I want to get rid of a lot of stuff, and like just a big like spring cleaning has been very very much I could feel it gearing up, and now that the equinox is here, I'm like let's do it. Oh yeah, I know. It's been hard too. It's like because I feel like this Pisces season is always a transition, um, of sorts, and I feel like that has been making it harder to like actually do the things that I've been really wanting to do because it has been a lot sleepier, a lot more introspective. But now that we've got a lot more Aries going on, especially the Sun in Aries, I'm like, you can't, don't stop me. Get out of my way. Very get out of my way feelings. And sometimes the thing that I want to get out of my way is myself. So it happens. It happens. The other thing, it's funny too, because another thing about this year is there is a sense of urgency, of course, because when you're talking about like human rights and you know war and stuff, like there's no time to waste, you know. There's It's already too long. But at the same time, we can't we just can't burn ourselves out by forcing ourselves to be constantly doing and constantly active. And so that is something you should watch out for this year, is to not over, like, it might things might feel more urgent in some senses than they actually are. And so that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to manage, and it's probably gonna take a certain amount of like emotional regulation and a little bit of emotional maturity. You can be active and still take breaks, still rest. You know what I mean? It's a hard realization for some people to come to. I know there's some people that like don't like to stop doing things. Like they just will just go, and then those are the people that burn themselves out, and then it kind of causes other issues if you get to that point. Okay, well, this one just flew out for me, so it's Knight of Wands. So as I'm talking about not being go 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 all the time, I get the card that is go go go. Oh, it's so funny. Sometimes I just have to laugh. I think for me, this is a big worky type year. I know, just like with my astrology transits, you guys are, watching something very interesting unfold for me right now, because I have a lot of action happening in my 10th house, which is Aries. And I do actually kind of feel like we're entering, like, I've had a lot of I'm a Scorpio. I've had a lot of phases in my life. So I think 2.0 is kind of, there's probably been more than that, but I'm kind of feeling like Casey 2.0 is entering the picture, and this is what this is reminding me of. Is that there's a lot of stuff to do. I have not stopped doing stuff, so I'm guessing that this is going to be a very active. I mean, right now, just to be transparent, I just finished my third week of my new job. There's been a lot. I've been training a lot. I've been learning a lot. I'm very tired. Yes, everybody. It's only go 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 for me. Everybody else, check your sense of urgency, except for me. except for me. Except for me. I don't have to listen to that. No. There have been points in my life where I was like go go go. Actually, when I was younger, I used to be a lot more go go go, and I burnt myself out really badly. In fact, when I graduated from college, I was super burnt out, and then I entered the entertainment industry as a young person, which is where you get, you know, your labor is exploited. They don't pay very well, and they work you really hard. And so I just was really burnt out for a lot of my 20s. And actually, I don't think that I really started recovering. Maybe this is true for some of you guys too. I didn't really start recovering until the pandemic, because that was the first time that I was not go, go, go. And so I kind of got forced to slow down. And there's been a lot of like delays in my life and like frustrations in my life for the past couple of years. Um, and I kind of feel like this is, confirming my suspicions that things are about to pick up a lot for me, which I'm fine with, because it has been. I've been preparing mentally, physically, spiritually for this period of time for a while. If you know, you know. But I had some really intense Pluto transits pretty much since I started doing astrology. You guys have seen me having really intense Pluto transits, like just since most of you have known me. And I'm only just coming out of it. So I actually do, like, I do feel like that KC 2.0 sort of feeling. But this really just feels like I have a lot of work to do. Which isn't my favorite thing to hear, to be honest, because I'm a Cancer rising. I really do like to chill. I do really like to chill, but here's the thing. One of the things that I'm being drawn to in this card, look at that stick he's got. There's like sprigs coming out of it, right? It's growth. It's so interesting too. I'm trying to think of like other cards in this deck. Um, but it's giving I have been growing things for a while now, and it feels like I'm starting to actually kind of hit a stride, which is what I've been hopefully looking for. It's so interesting too, because this card is like, he's like in a desert. So hot. One of the things I've been personally struggling with, I don't do well with intense heat. So a lot of the climate crisis stuff, it really upsets me, just like on a personal, physical level. I'm like, this is not, this is not the future I personally wanted. Honestly, do you guys watch Twilight Zone? Any fans of the Twilight Zone? Um, me and my sister used to watch there every 4th of July. There was, it does. Oh, Fire Horse. Thank you, Beth. That's such a good reminder. I forgot. And you know what? Fun fact, I am in Chinese astrology. I'm a horse also. So I don't know if you could tell by the mane. But I'm not a fire horse. I'm a metal horse, which I think is really cool. But I do think like I have felt like the excited by the fact that it's like a horse year. And the reason I brought up Twilight Zone is because there's this episode that it's really hot because the sun is like uh the earth is moving closer to the sun because something terrible has happened. And so a lot of the episode takes place um in this apartment, and it's like you're a wood rat. Rats are smart. Rats are smart. And actually, thinking about rats too, thinking about like the plague and stuff like that, rats are powerful members of the planet and they can fuck shit all the way up. Okay, so I will. If you haven't seen this episode, it's called The Midnight Sun. Pretty much the whole episode, they look like this. um, this episode as a child was my idea of hell. And there's a part in the episode where it's like midnight and the temperature reading is like 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And that was my ideal of hell. I think that's one of the reasons, honestly, I became a climate organizer for a period of time. Rats like apparently like thinking so is fitting. And cheese, which I know you love. Who doesn't love cheese, right? They got taste. They got taste. Um, I would recommend watching this up. It's very good sci-fi. But I was such a little freak about Twilight Zone. I very briefly worked on a potential reboot of Twilight Zone, and then Jordan Peele took it, and so I didn't get to work on it anymore. Thank you, Jordan Peele. Thank you, Jordan Peele. I was super excited about working on Twilight Zone, and then Jordan Peele was like, actually, I want to work on Twilight Zone. And then nobody even liked it. Yeah, he did it to me personally. He did it to me personally. All right, should we do a collective reading? Or is there anybody that has been quietly lingering in the chat that still wants a reading? Because I'm about to close the list if not. All right, I think that was it. Kind of a quieter day for the community. Okay. Collective reading. Do you remember Time Enough to Last episode? That one stuck with me. I probably do if you describe it. Oh, the beautiful woman was considered ugly. Yeah, I fucking love that show. I really do. I really do love that show. Formative for me. So formative for me. I was such like I'm really lucky that my stepdad is super into sci-fi, and so he like as a kid he would always like he's such a movie guy, and he had like he has a big DVD collection, and he had like a laser disc collection, so he'd show me all kinds of stuff. And then I think my dad and my stepmom were the ones actually that showed us Twilight Zone, because my sister and I every 4th of July weekend or whatever, not always on a weekend, but every 4th of July around that time, there's a big marathon of the Twilight Zone episodes on cable, and we would just watch it like literally all day. All the guy wanted to do is read World's Ends, and now he can read. Oh, yes, that one. There's so many, like, really disturbing episodes. I felt bad for him. I was always like, especially with this one, with the, literally my idea of hell, like, it was haunting, but I kind of like, again, Scorpio, I kind of like it. You knew I knew I was a rat, but I didn't know what kind. Had to look it up. I'm a wood rat, not to be confused with a hood rat. Why not both? You know? Love that. I love seeing the variety of like, everybody's Chinese astrology signs. Um, yeah, that is my idea of hell. Like nothing to do, and then your glasses. You're fire rabbit. That makes a lot of sense for you. I feel like because rabbits are also really smart, and they're really. I feel like they have like a certain amount of like buoyant energy, which I feel like you also have, Mimi. You're a metal snake? Hell yeah. Metal. You and me are metal. I think that makes sense. I could see it. I could see it. I think snakes my because this last year was a snake year. I have a lot of my friends that were born in the beginning of 1990 or in 1989. So I have a lot of friends that are also snakes, but I think I can't remember. Are they wood snakes? I can't remember. But um, snakes are very resilient and often misunderstood, I feel like, and feared unnecessarily. But I know a lot of people that are snakes. Actually, I need to check because I have a friend that has a very serious like phobia of snakes, and I'm kind of wondering if he is a snake. I have to look it up because it's bugging me. And then I'll do the collective reading. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for the equinox. Um, my so just as an aside of what's going on with me, this is my third week of training, and training has been kind of intensive because I'm learning this very like it's specific to this company, this specific program that we're using, and it's sort of in depth. So I think once I kind of get things more settled at my work, I'll start doing more like I want to do more gaming streams. I was not planning on getting a Switch 2, but now I'm like kind of plotting to get a Switch 2 because I want to play that Pokemon game. You know, I got by Nintendo like everyone. Nintendo is so rude. Um, so rude. They make it so I was like super excited when I saw the Pokemon game. I was like, oh no, he's a dragon. Okay, so he's not a snake. Forget about all that. Um, what was I saying? What the fuck was I just saying? I'm doing four things at once. That's always where it goes wrong for me. Um, okay, we're gonna do the collective reading. Da da da. I'm gonna close this window so I don't. Snakes are a symbol of wisdom. My work training. Thank you, Mimi. God bless you. My work training. My point is, I think when things get a little bit less hairy over here, I'll be doing more fun streams, which I'm looking forward to because the Pokemon thing. Yeah, you can't get the Pokemon game on Switch 1. So not only is the game itself like $60 to $80, um, you have to buy a $450 device to even play it. So, also, I think of pagans since Patrick drove the snakes from. Oh yeah, Saint Patrick. That's it. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, the story is true. Yes. I don't know. Maybe that really happened. Um, Hawaii has no snakes on those islands, which I told my friend, and he was like, "I guess that's where I should go." uh, the pagans were the snakes he spoke of. Yes, there we go. Of course, the pagans, those dirty pagans. Okay, what am I thinking of here? So let's get a collective reading for the next astrological year. For this community, the petty astrology community, because that's what we are. That is what we are. Okay. I like when the cards fly out because then I get to be a little less active. But they're not doing that. Okay, oh, interesting. It's really giving focus on ourselves. I know, I have to keep reiterating to my American audience that doesn't mean we just plug our ears, because that's not going to be a good recipe. But Focus on what's right in front of you, what you can actually do. Okay. So interesting. So first of all of them are in reverse. Man, this is really, really echoing the astrology that I was looking at earlier. Um, it's the personal within the collective is really, I think, what's being highlighted here. Um, so it's so interesting. We got the Four of Cups here. These are two cards that it's just so when these cards come out together, like I don't know, just seeing them both in the same spread. There's something percolating here. Um, I think a lot of us have been trained to wait for perfect circumstances, right? I'll do this when XYZ happens, or when this happens, then this happen, or if I get that promotion, I'll be happy, or if I do XYZ, then I'll feel better, right? There's a lot of like outside of ourselves, not this, not now, not what I have right in front of me type of feeling. I'm really getting the vibe that we're not supposed to wait for those things. We're not supposed to. It's not about doing anything just for the sake of doing it, um, but not waiting around. Not, this is a person that is sitting under a tree, which is a lovely activity, right? Um, this is about not waiting around for the perfect thing, the perfect circumstances, right? One of the aspects of this year, and one of the reasons why I keep reminding us, like, it's a challenging year, is not because I want you to feel defeated. It's just I don't want you to internalize, like, things aren't working out because something's wrong with me. It's like, no, we're just going through massive systemic change, and we are ruled by, pedophilic billionaires who, that don't give a shit if we or live or die. Thank you, Beth. That's very well said. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to start. Don't look for the perfect circumstances. This is a card of cups. You still want to tune into how you feel about something. That's going to be a good guiding light for you. If you are feeling like, oh my god, I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel right. I don't have any enthusiasm for this. Right? Maybe that's not the thing for you. But don't wait for the perfect circumstances. Don't wait for the exact thing that you imagined to appear in order to keep it moving. In order to feel okay, right? The other thing about this is that we deserve to enjoy life and feel good even though the world is falling apart, because not only is that going to make it sustainable for us to move through these times, but also it is going to fuel us for all the things that we have to do and for this next chapter, right? So we can't deny ourselves joy. We can't deny ourselves movement, right? We don't want to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be perfect. Trying something and it not going as you expected is better than not trying at all. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here, is like, just even if you approach something and it's not perfect and it doesn't happen perfectly the way that you thought it was going to happen, don't consider that a failure. Don't consider the lack of perfection in something a defeat, or that it means that you didn't do something right, or that it's not for you, right? Um, let me see. Interesting. We only got even numbers on this too. 4, 6, 8. Interesting. It's so interesting too, because this card sometimes it can, for me, it can mean like mutual aid and stuff, and it's in reverse. Um, I do think this is about this is, to me, this, I'm interpreting this as still being about mutual aid, but it's kind of a different flavor of it. Um, I think we need to get rid of the idea that well, what's really interesting about this is that it's also reminding me of class divides. Um, 468 would be a numerological 9 endings. That's so interesting, right? Because, and I do feel like the 2026, one of the interesting things about the calendar year to me, which also involves the beginning of this astrological year, is that it's a year of beginnings and endings. And so I do feel like that what you were saying about the numerology aspect of it is definitely applicable, because every beginning is also an ending. Every beginning is also an ending. Um, I think we need to be less caught up in the endings, right? And just like endings are a part of life. I think so many, because of our, our biological drive for certainty and comfort in what we know, we have this subconscious, or conscious for some of us, fear of change, fear of endings, fear of things not being how they were before, even if we didn't like them that, much before. It's because of that comfort, and like, oh, because I know what's going on, it feels safer to me psychologically. Um, it's we don't have to have like the perfect comfort, like kind of going back to this first card. We don't have to have the perfect situation and perfect comfort to find happiness. I also think that this is emphasizing that we are in a time of upending our concept of class, and that is this, it's a Pentacles card. It's reminding me that the like, accept the fact that the hard realities of our shared experience right now are kind of being turned on their head in a certain sense. Like, that this established order of things is being upended. And with that, I think this really, I know I keep saying mutual aid, but that it really is reminding me of mutual aid, because whether it's upright or reverse, there is this sense of give and take in this card. And some of that is being disruptive. I think part of this is also like, a lot of people right now are, especially if you're being heavily impacted by the economic situation, there's a lot of people being laid off, scarcity, things like that. I think this is also about like upending our economic understandings, and that to not be leaning so much into these old concepts of like charity, or like, oh well, the economy's falling apart, so I better be stingy with my money, because what's going to happen next. I think we're actually, what this card is pointing us towards, this is especially because of where I pulled it. If you have something to give it and trust. I'm not saying give everything away. I'm saying if you have something to give it and trust that money and material goods, they come and go. And I think when we hoard money, speaking of like billionaires and things like that, when we hoard money, that is creating an energy of scarcity and restriction. And we're actually in a time where we need to upend that and break it apart in a certain sense. If we want a world that's not based around capitalism, and some people are winners and some people are losers and fuck them, that's what we have right now. If we don't want that to be the way that things are anymore, this is a year, I think, for us collectively to practice this sort of more mutual exchange. I have a friend of mine who actually is an Aries rising and a Taurus moon. This friend of mine is she's very good at friendship, is how I would describe it. And, I actually radicalized her. Not intentionally, but I did. And one of the things that I was really like, I find beautiful about her as a person is she's so generous with everybody, strangers, with people in her life. And she's not like letting people take advantage of her, but she is somebody who grew up in extreme poverty. And so if she has the ability to help somebody, she helps them and just trusts that it's going to work itself out. And you know what? I've known her for a decade now, and somehow that has been true. So if you need the data, start emphasizing that a little bit more, instead of being like, well, I got to hoard all my money because the economy's mad. We need to be in the state of more like, man, I can't pay my such and such bill. I'm like $100 short. Okay, so if you had a community that you are a part of, which hopefully you do, if you're a part of this community, this is one of those communities. I'm $100 short on this bill. Does anybody want to contribute to me being able to pay this bill? And then the rest of us, instead of saying like, oh, fuck that person who can't pay that bill, hey, you know what? I actually have $10 that I don't need to spend this week, so I'm going to give it to you. And then another person does it, and then another. We're changing this culture of give and take that has been so well established. It's being upended. And one of the ways that we get through this time is not through closing our fists and focusing on ourselves and being greedy. It's actually about being more generous than we've ever been, and changing our relationship to our physical possessions in a certain way. I have observed over the past like 10 years of just being on the internet that this has become more of the culture as people have needed it, right? People that are a part of marginalized communities have already been doing this well before, well before. They already know, because their marginalized communities have to do this kind of thing. When somebody dies and a funeral is expensive, the community will contribute to the funeral costs. We need to get to a more communal understanding of our physical goods. That's part of our liberation, is not being so tight-fisted, not being so greedy, not taking on that capitalist billionaire mentality and personalizing it into the way that we relate to other people, to other humans. You can do that without being, you don't have to give anybody your credit card number, okay? Don't be silly. But you know what I mean? Having this more of an open exchange, asking for help when you need it, giving help when you have it. That's really what this card is leaning into. And this is the card that's in the center of the spread for me. So that is kind of like the headline here. And then lastly, we've got this Eight of Cups here in reverse as well, because they're all in reverse. So interesting. I just pulled this card for a friend of mine last night, so this is one of those cards that's been kind of haunting me a little bit. Um, but it's only been haunting me in readings for either like this is a collective reading or like readings for other people. Um, so it's really interesting. I'm trying like I for whatever reason this is like throwing me a little bit in the position that it's in. I've also been sitting here in very hot weather, so it might also be that my brain has just like broken. um okay. We're wrapping up here. Finish strong. Um God, it's hot. I forgot to grab my ice pack. That's the other thing that I didn't do, because of course I didn't. Somebody help me. Okay. I think this is also about reassessment. Ice pack socks. I did not know that was a thing. Now I have to look it up. I have an air conditioning. It's just when it's right next to my desk, and so when I am live streaming, it's just not good for the audio quality. Oh, thank you for sending me the link. Okay, so this card to me is about introspection, right? It's like walking away from something that doesn't feel right for you. And remember what I was saying earlier about really tuning into ourselves in this moment, not taking other people's like paths as our own, or like their expectations or their desires onto our own. We need to make space for the things that are actually for us. But how do we do that? Right? The gift of, I think, knowing that, the world is upside down. The gift of knowing that the world is upside down and that things are not right is that you get to wander off and figure out what is right for you. And I think that's what this one is about. That's not something that is going to come from like our path, and aligning with our path is not going to, very few of us are going to have a fairy godmother come and tell us like this is what you're supposed to do, right? We need to tap into our feelings about it. And if we're walking away from something, we need to understand like, why am I walking away from this thing? What does that mean about what I'm walking towards? This is permission to introspect and feel it out for yourself. That is going to be on a collective level, I think that is going to be the route, uh, or that is going to be the guiding light to the right route for us in this moment. Um, it is it is a very like emotionally challenging time, I think, to be a person, especially because there is so much fear. There is so much like disagreement on the basics of our reality in a way that is more dramatic than it has been, at least in recent history. Like, a lot, people. One of the things I'm thinking of is like the Benjamin Netanyahu thing. There are people online right now that you cannot tell, no matter what you show them, you cannot tell them that Netanyahu is still alive. That's how separate our realities are in a certain way. And so in that sense, it's like we can't rely on the collective for for what's at the heart of our own feelings and what's at the heart of our own truth. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be aware of them. But on a collective level, we are, I think, being invited to be more introspective personally. One of the things about that is I think that, like, for example, the Trump regime, all of those fuckers that are like Pete Hegseth, right? I don't know why he's the one that came to mind, but he's so like obsessed with like he's like a Christian allegedly, but he's so obsessed with like doing his crusade and like hating the Arab world and just painting people in the most unforgiving and like horrific light, right? I think people like that, one of their many problems is that they are not really tuned into themselves. They're tuned into a consciousness of white supremacy or of their, evangelical white supremacist version of Christianity or whatever it is, and that's calling the shots. They're looking outside of themselves for something, and they happen to be choosing really disgusting things, right? Not everybody has that particularly extreme of an experience, but when we tune into things that are outside of ourselves, we end up we end up doing things that, I'm not saying that it's not authentic to Pete Hegseth. I think it really is authentic to him, but I don't think that is in. I don't think in Pete Hegseth's soul, for example, I don't think that that's actually what he really wants to do. I just think he's so fucking tuned out and turned off. But if for those of us who are still in touch with our humanity and aren't disgusting, the fulfillment and the emotional reward of this moment is that we get to find greater alignment by looking within instead of, a lot of us have been, a lot of those people that I've been talking about that are tuned out of the world around them, they are pretty tuned into like their idea of normalcy. And so those are the kind of people that end up, they get married and they have 2.5 kids, and then they wake up one day and they're like, why did I even do any of this? Because I was supposed to, because I went along and just got along to get along. It wasn't about what I wanted and what I felt. It was about what the world expected of me, of what I was tuned into. That wasn't me. This is inviting us to turn off that outer faucet and instead kind of figure out on a personal level how we can bring something more authentic and rewarding and alive. All right. This is the other thing, is that when you kind of default, when you just go along, you are stagnant. You are not the most helpful version of yourself that you can be, because you are engaging in something outside of that. Okay. Does that make sense? It's a moment, like, I think of collective transformation. I think that is what I'm getting here. And so as much as the physical world is being turned on its head, there's like this really strong emotional component here that we're being asked to kind of reckon with in this moment of where our worlds are like kind of being turned upside down. All right, so that's what I've got for you guys collectively. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for the equinox. I hope that you guys enjoyed our little celebration, and I will see you guys in Patreon and Discord. If you're not in there already, get in there. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Enjoy. Happy equinox. Happy